everyone. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Welcome to the fourth session of Horizon Lodge's O.T.O 101 series entitled, What is a Thelemic Church? The title of this talk is a bit misleading as it suggests I'm going to talk about just any old Thelemic church. First of all, there aren't that many, certainly nowhere near as there are Christian churches in number. Second, this being a series focused on Ordo Templi Orientis, I will be talking exclusively about the Thelemic Church, which is part of O.T.O, and that is called Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica. I will talk about the relationship of our church to our parent organization, O.T.O. I will also talk about its structure, its activities, and the spirituality informing those activities. Let me start by giving a little bit of context. According to our National Grand Master, the purpose of O.T.O is to collectively approach, encounter, and magnify the divine by means of two paths. One of those paths is fraternal and the other is ceremonial. Our first path to the divine is through our shared fraternal bonds, that is, through the yoga of our interpersonal relations as siblings. Unless you live on a deserted island or in the remote tundra, dealing with other humans is part of life. Due to their fears, prejudices, desires, and bizarre fantasies, other people are notorious pains in the ass. That being said, they also bring their unique skills and perspectives to bear on the human condition and on our lives. Admittedly, we're able to accomplish more together than any of us could accomplish singly. Specifically in the context of O.T.O, we can add that we learn to see the divine in each other. A Thelemic fraternity allows us to see that divinity grow and amplify itself through our collective spirit as we work and learn together. Our second path to the divine is through the sacred rituals we work together. These sacred rituals are divided into the two component rites of O.T.O. On the one hand, we have Mysteria Mystica Maxima, Latin for Greatest Mystical Mysteries, or MMM. MMM is our mystery school. In MMM, candidates are gradually introduced to the sacred mysteries of O.T.O by means of initiatory rites. You'll be hearing a lot more about MMM and our initiations in 2 weeks when Kellen gives that talk. And on the other hand, we have Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica, Latin for Gnostic Catholic Church, or EGC. EGC is our ecclesiastical or religious rite. It is a church. These two kinds of rites, the initiatory rite and the religious rite, both have their roots in the ancient world. They share certain characteristics, but also differ in important ways. For instance, they are both ways of approaching sacredness. They both are officiated over by a priest, initiator, or other figure. But they also differ in important ways. The audience of a religious rite is the public, whereas the audience for an initiatory rite is the single candidate. This is also true in O.T.O. Our celebrations of the Gnostic Mass and our baptism and confirmation ceremonies are open to the public. Our initiation rituals are not. They are only for the candidate being initiated or those who have already been initiated. Religious rites are generally not secretive. Initiations into mysteries are. For example, you can write a blog post about what you witness at one of our celebrations of the Gnostic Mass. What happens in an initiation ceremony should be kept secret. Religious rites tend to the general good, whereas the purpose of an initiatory rite is to introduce one person to one god or goddess at an experiential level. So at the beginning of the Gnostic Mass, the task of the priest is openly declared: to administer the virtues to the brethren. In other words, to teach the public about some general good. Our church also provides ceremonies of baptism, confirmation, marriage, and last rites to commemorate important passages through life. Our initiation ceremonies, by contrast, are oriented toward the individual. Having established what Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica is in the context of O.T.O, let's now turn to consider its structure. There are two recognized subclasses of church membership: the clergy or clerical membership, and the laity or lay membership. The clergy is composed of the father or mother of the church, also known as the patriarch or matriarch, the primate, the bishops, the priests, priestesses, and deacon sacerdotes, and the deacons. As mentioned, EGC and Mysteria Mystica Maxima are two separate rites within O.T.O. However, they are related to one another insofar as only persons of a certain level of initiation can fill certain roles within the church. For instance, the patriarch or matriarch of the church is the O.H.O, or outer head of the order of O.T.O, who is the sole 12th degree. That individual has the power to approve rituals we do in the church and to instate, revoke, suspend, or reinstate lay or clergy membership in the church. That role is currently filled by Hymenaeus Beta. The primate or presiding bishop is the National Grand Master General, the ruler of the Grand Lodge of a country. In the United States, that is Sabazius 10th degree. Working beneath the primate are the bishops. Bishops must be Sovereign Grand Inspectors General 7th degree of O.T.O. They have the power and authority to celebrate the Gnostic Mass, to ordain clergy, to perform baptisms, confirmations, marriages, and last rites in accordance with local law. Working beneath the bishops are priests, priestesses, deacon sacerdotes, and deacons. Priests, priestesses, and deacon sacerdotes must be Knights of the East and West, or KEWs. Deacons must usually be 2nd degree. Priest, priestess, and deacon are roles served in our central ritual, the Gnostic Mass, which I will return to in a moment. Unlike a deacon sacerdote, a deacon is only an assistant to priests and priestesses in the performance of their duties and are not considered official representatives of EGC. Novices are individuals of any degree who have been accorded lay membership in EGC, who are undergoing training under the supervision of a bishop to prepare them for the ordination as priest, priestess, or deacon. Finally, we have the lay members of the EGC. Lay membership is conferred by the ceremony of confirmation, which must be preceded by the ceremony of baptism. Lay membership conveys no authority or special privileges within EGC. Baptism is open to any person at least 11 years of age. Confirmation is open to any person who has been baptized and who has attained to the age of puberty. Baptism and confirmation are public ceremonies. So much for the structure of the church. What do we do? As mentioned, we perform ceremonies of baptism and confirmation. From an administrative perspective, confirmation makes one a lay member of the church, and baptism allows you to undergo confirmation. We also perform marriage, ordination, and last rites. But the central activity of the EGC is the celebration of the Gnostic Mass as set forth in Liber 15, written by Aleister Crowley for O.T.O. and EGC in 1913. For those who don't have much or any familiarity with our customs in O.T.O., I'll describe for you a little bit what Gnostic Masses at Horizon are like. Other O.T.O. local bodies likely follow similar customs. Horizon offers public celebrations of the Gnostic Mass once a month. We have a dedicated space in Seattle where we hold these celebrations. There's usually plenty of parking out front, and they are free to attend. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. to admit the public, and the ceremony starts at 6 o'clock sharp. Right now, we request anyone wishing to attend to RSVP the Lodge Master. When people come in, they wait in our foyer and library. The community is very welcoming of new individuals. We'll likely ask you how you heard of us, how you heard of O.T.O., what your interest is in spirituality, magic, and the like. Someone should offer you a glass of water or soda, and you can peruse our library and chat with people while you wait. As of this recording, you can only attend if you are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Right now, fully vaccinated means a person who is at least 2 weeks out from their second dose of Moderna or Pfizer, or their single dose of Johnson & Johnson. While highly recommended, a booster is currently not required for fully vaccinated person status. About 5 minutes before the ritual starts, the deacon will come out and introduce him or herself. In addition to giving community announcements, they will also ask if there are any new individuals. They will give a general overview of the ritual. The ritual usually runs about 40 to 45 minutes, sometimes a little longer if there is a larger congregation. The ritual is participatory. Accommodations are always made for people's abilities, but all other things being equal, you will be expected to stand and sit when everyone else stands and sits. There are some lines we say together. You should be given a missal to help you follow along. We also have a few copies in Braille for the visually impaired. There are also some small gestures that are done. Newcomers are asked to follow along as best they can, but the main objective is to relax and enjoy the ritual. There is a point in the ritual where everyone kneels together with hands overhead for about 3 to 4 minutes. If you have physical limitations that prevent this or make this difficult, you can modify the pose or just sit in your chair. We offer kneeling pads. You have the option to leave your shoes on or take them off before entering the temple. In my opinion, it is easier to kneel with shoes off. We lock the foyer front door from the inside during the ritual so that anything valuable you leave in the foyer is safe. We ask everyone to keep their phones on silent during the ritual and to maintain respectful silence throughout. The ritual might involve nudity. At Horizon, it usually does. This depends on whether the priestess chooses to re-robe or remain nude after the parting of the veil. Everyone else, including the congregants, remains fully clothed. There are acts and gestures during the ritual that are suggestive of sexual acts. The priestess rubs and kisses the priest's lance. The priest kisses and briefly touches the priestess's body. The climax of the ritual is the union of the lance and the grail. None of this is done in a way which is lascivious, though it is, in my opinion, somewhat on the nose. At the conclusion of the ritual, every congregant walks up to the altar and takes communion. They consume what is called a cake of light, and they drink a small glass of wine or juice. The cake of light is similar to a small cookie. It is made of flour, honey, olive oil, oil of aubermelon, which is an oil blended from aromatic plants, wine or cream of tartar, and either food-grade livestock blood or, much more commonly, a pinch of ash. The texture and taste of a cake of light varies depending on the exact proportion of the aforementioned ingredients and how long and at what temperature it has been cooked. They are usually slightly chewy, again like a cookie, and taste slightly of cinnamon or clove on account of the oil of aubermelon. There are no sexual fluids in cakes of light used in any Gnostic Mass performed in O.T.O. It is a small cookie. We treat it as food service, and especially in the age of COVID, we take extra precautions with food handling to make sure we are limiting the spread of virus. As for the wine or juice, the deacon will ask the congregants individually which they prefer before they are admitted into the temple. Afterward, our community tends to hang out in the foyer for a bit for chatting. We're happy to answer any questions you may have about us or the ritual. If you go to our website, seattle-oto.org, you can download the entire script of the ritual. We also have a detailed participation guide and a video of the full ritual that you can watch. These will give you a thorough idea of what to expect if you attend. That's the nuts and bolts of what we do. Let me conclude by talking a bit about the spirituality animating all of this. But before doing so, what I am about to say about Thelema and the spirituality of our church does not represent official O.T.O. doctrine. As far as I know, O.T.O. does not have an official interpretation of Thelema, nor have they established any kind of official church doctrine. And while I am giving this talk on behalf of Horizon Lodge O.T.O., I do not speak on behalf of any particular individual member of Horizon other than, of course, myself. That being said, I believe what I am about to say is consistent with how Aleister Crowley understood Thelema, and my hope is that it is both comprehensible and valuable to you. If you saw my previous talk, What is Thelema, that I gave last month, I spoke about how, in Thelema, the individual is the result of the dynamic interaction between two principles. There's a principle which is interior to the individual. It is the basic open-ended desire to be, or to become, or to live, or to exist. This is called the will. and it is identified with a god called Hadit. And then there is the environment in which that will expresses itself, which Crowley calls Nuit. The environment constrains the activities of the will in various ways that give shape to the individual. This interaction between Nuit and Hadit is called love. To deliberately work with our constraints or our nature so as to structure ourselves and increase our power is called love under will or magic. The goal of the Thelemic spiritual path is to do one's will, a task which is also implicitly identified with loving Nuit. Doing one's will does not mean accomplishing a single objective, such as getting eggs at the store. Nuit, after all, is infinite, and arguably the ways to love her are as well. Doing one's will means working with the fittedness in the moment between the God within and the goddess without. That is a situation that is constantly changing. Therefore, the ideal of Thelema is not to become any particular type of person. It's not to fulfill some moral ideal, for instance, to be like Socrates or to be like Jesus. Rather, it's to enjoy open-ended growth and development, an ideal symbolized by our central deity, Ra-Hor-Kuit. That's not something that's finished in a day, or maybe even in a lifetime. Depending on whether you believe in reincarnation, the scope of that idea could be quite large. We impress this scope upon individuals in our initiation rituals, which are meant to symbolically portray the path in eternity of the individual's soul. It is also suggested in the final stanza of the creed of our Gnostic Mass when we say, "And I confess my life, one, individual and eternal, that was and is to come." So at the level of the individual, you have this very important idea of the dynamic change of the individual over time, resulting from the opponent processing between Hadit and Nuit. It's this same idea elevated to a cosmological level, which I believe animates our Gnostic Mass. What happens in the Gnostic Mass is that these two opposed principles are expanded into two trinities. So you have a masculine trinity and a feminine trinity. The former is basically carried by the priest, the latter by the priestess. But the point is to show how they relate and interpenetrate one another in order to constitute and dynamically change nature and the human race over time. In the last talk I gave, I tried to explain Thelema on analogy with Darwinian evolution. In the context of EGC, we're dealing with something that, in my opinion, actually looks very similar to evolution. I think this is why Crowley insisted that the religion he wanted to portray in this ceremony was broadly naturalistic. And so mention is made and prayers are offered throughout the course of the ritual to the sun, the moon, the divine masculine and feminine, the earth, birth, life, and death, and so forth. These are indexed masculine or feminine according to the magical tradition Crowley knew when he wrote the ritual. The purpose of the ritual, though, is to show the interaction or interpenetration of the masculine and feminine, which is responsible for our dynamic change over time. The Eucharist is the result of the union of the priest and the priestess by means of the lance and the grail. When we consume the Eucharist, we are taking that magical power within ourselves, uniting ourselves with it for the purpose of fulfilling our own wills. So in a sense, our ritual celebrates those conditions that allow endless dynamic change to occur. But we can think about conditions in more than one way. For example, our bodies need food, water, and air to survive. Those things are conditions of our biological existence. We couldn't live without them. But what about our minds? What about our souls? What is food for them? I would argue that meaning in life is what counts as food for our souls. Meaning in life is different from food, water, and air. Meaning in life doesn't make life possible. Meaning in life makes life worth living. Meaning in life is supplied by feeling deeply connected with ourselves, with the world, and with one another. It means growing and developing through our connections to all of them. We are absolutely dependent upon these connections in order to live a worthwhile life. Another word for that kind of absolute dependence is sacredness. Religion, in its deepest sense, is the conscious celebration of sacredness. This is our version of that. And since we have dynamic change over time at the center of our religion, that means that all of our creeds or beliefs have to be subservient to that. Theoretically, they can change, or at least our understanding and appreciation of them can. So we say a creed at the beginning of our ritual. We need some kind of belief structure in order to make our religion intelligible to ourselves and to others. But we're also doing this with the awareness that the purpose of Thelemic belief is to catalyze a certain kind of lived experience. In particular, a radical transformation in how we live and who and what we take ourselves to be. If you're interested in learning more about our church, there are many ways to do this. You can go to our website at seattle-oto.org. We have the full script there, as well as a video of the entire ritual. There are also detailed attendance guidelines. You can also find our calendar and see when we are next offering a public celebration of the Gnostic Mass. You can also check out the website of United States Grand Lodge O.T.O at oto-usa.org. They have more information about the church, as well as its history and structure. You can also look at the website of our National Grand Master Sabazius at sabazius.oto-usa.org. There's tons of information on there relevant to EGC and the Gnostic Mass. If you've enjoyed hearing this short talk, please consider donating to Horizon. Your $5 contribution helps us to continue to offer these and other events and to maintain our temple space in Seattle, where we offer initiations, original rituals, classes, social events, and celebrations of the Gnostic Mass. We'll put links in the chat for you. Thank you for your patience and for your kind attention. Love is the law, love under will. I will now be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. I actually had a question. I was wondering if the body of the Gnostic Catholic Church and the MMM existed both in the bodies of the Caliphate O.T.O and the Typhonian O.T.O.
What do you mean by that? Well, I don't know anything really about the Typhonian O.T.O. Sorry.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah, could you elaborate more on the history of EGC?
A little bit. So a good reference for that would be Sabazius's website. He wrote pretty much a book, well, part of a book on this. So yeah, Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica comes out of the late 19th century French Gnostic movement. I think it's related to Martinism. I think what happened was that Theodore Royce, who founded, one of the founders of O.T.O, I think became consecrated in EGC. And as a result of that, he also managed to take EGC into O.T.O. I'm actually not entirely clear on the full history on it. I would have to look it up. Kellen, do you remember anything on that?
Yeah, something like that. It's a mess. It was one of those it was, back when people were trading initiations and degrees and consecrations because they thought that was super cool. And yeah, I'm not terribly clear on it, but the No, I just haven't studied because it's not the part that's super interesting to me personally. But the Sabazius website is good. And Janice, I can talk to you offline and put you in touch with some people who know a little bit, who are more familiar with it if you'd like.
That link that I just posted is an essay that explains it probably better than anything else that I've seen. Yeah, apparently, apparently EGC became part of O.T.O, it looks like around 1908. Thank you for attending, everyone. Love is the law, love and the will.